And new week. Nice to have you with us. Short week for me. I'll be here today and tomorrow. Then I'm off for the rest of the week. Have some other things to do. But in the meantime, after the 10 o'clock news this morning, we'll have open phones, and Jonathan Dunn will be joining me in the studio for that. At 11 o'clock, we will learn about Bushy Automotive on Focus. But for this hour, Saginaw Township is the focus this morning. It's a township with an unusual, maybe not totally unusual, but a little unusual in its form of government because it has a supervisor and it has a township manager. What are their roles? Well, we'll find out this morning and find out other things going on in the township with both of those individuals. First of all, we say good morning to our buddy who we've known for decades and decades and decades. Yeah, he's old. He is the township supervisor. We say good morning to Gary Fondrick.
Good morning, Art. I'm really not as old as I look.
I tell people my brain tells me I'm 50. My body tells me my brain's a liar. Also with us this morning is the Saginaw Township Manager, Brian Rumbalski. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, sir. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here today. All right, I think before we say anything about the business of the township, we need to define the roles. So we'll start with you, Gary. You are the elected official.
That's correct.
You are the township supervisor.
Yes.
What do you supervise?
Well, supervisor has, I try to wear a lot of different hats in this job, but really the supervisor's job is we have a 7-member board. And my job is, for example, when we have a board meeting, I will coordinate and run the board meetings with the other 6 trustees.
So it makes you like chairman of the board.
Yes,
in some ways,
yes, yeah, I guess you might say that. And what I really like to do every morning is to, I sit there and I say, what can I do to make Saginaw Township better today? And that's my attitude. And I encourage residents to come in and talk to me because what I found so far, it's only been a year and a half now since I've been in the position, but a lot of times people are apprehensive maybe about talking to government, or maybe they feel that there's some apathy, like we really don't care. And I want to make sure that the residents understand that I really do care. And I sit there across from the desk and let them know that we're together on this. My job is to provide a solution to whatever their question might be.
And your job, Brian, is to do all the work that's not done by the supervisor. Right?
Sure. So, really as the appointed person over there, I'm kind of the chief of staff. And really what my goal is to make sure that the 120-member staff that we have over at Saginaw Township is in line with what the township board wants us to do. They're the ones that are elected by the people to represent their voices and represent their goals to be achieved over that 4-year term. And then it's up to the 7-member township board, including obviously Supervisor Fondrick, to then direct us and staff as to what those goals are, and we achieve them.
Just like that.
I try to. It's easier said than done, as you obviously know.
Yep. Nothing hard
exactly.
about that.
Exactly.
So let's start with an overview. If I said to you, what's the financial health of the township right now?
Strong. And that's one of the things, obviously, that's my predecessors coming before us, Gary's predecessors before him. We've always taken a very fiscally conservative approach when we look at things. One thing that I can say, obviously, that I'm extremely proud of since I took over as manager in 2022 is the township has received over $10 million in direct grant funding from the state of Michigan. That then allows us to stretch those tax dollars that those residents are entrusting us with via their taxes to be able to provide the services that they expect.
I have to ask this question. Might as well get it out of the way now. The township historically has favored millage requests for lots of things. They've come up against a school board that apparently township residents are not in the mood.
Sure.
3 defeats now.
Mm-hmm.
What's your reaction to it, both of you, and what's the future of it? And I know it's not in your bailiwick, but you have responsibilities too. So
sure.
Well, it's certainly important to have a strong school system in any community. One of the first things people ask when they're thinking about moving to a community is, how are the schools? What are they like? And we want to keep them strong. Obviously, there's a lot of disappointment when that millage fails. I do know in talking to some of the people in the organization at the township schools that they have no choice. That they're going to have to do this again. It's probably going to be in November. It's a tough battle because if you have a lot of people that just have the mindset of they don't want any new taxes, that's their mindset. And even though the schools need desperately to be maintained and improved, evidently this group of people, that's not something that matters to them.
And, I guess we should point out, and I don't want to dwell on this, but the township educationally has always done well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
a good school system.
Absolutely.
We're talking about the physical buildings and how they were designed and what they need for security and all of those things. Just to get that done. Just your reaction, Brian?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I will say this: Superintendent Kratz over there that they have is unbelievable. We are so lucky to have her directing the Saginaw Township Community School District. She sits, she listens, she talks to everybody in that Vote No campaign, in the Vote Yes campaign. I've been fortunate enough to have a direct ear line with her kind of thing, to have that word with her. It's disappointing. We see, as to echo the words of Supervisor Fondrick, we see the need for these schools to be in the caliber and shape that they have been. Again, kudos to that school board to be able to go after a lot of these grants with the help of, Representative O'Neill, getting some of that. I believe it was $1.5 million, somewhere in there, to redesign Sherwood Pool and bring that back to be a community space. I tell Gary all the time, I'm a 2012 graduate of Heritage High School. The high school looks
You're a
nearly
local
the same.
boy.
Absolutely. Born and raised here. Only left for 2 years to go to grad school and then came back. But I was one of those kids at Sherwood Elementary School, a building that's got 3 walls to every single classroom. Yeah. Imagine me, back in the year 2000 as a 6-year-old trying to stay focused when you've got everybody else coming in from recess and me chomping at the bit to get out there. But, it's things like that. When I look at it, and I know when Gary looks at it in our new roles right now as manager and supervisor of Saginaw Township, we sit and we listen to our police department, and think of the safety and security issues. Obviously, nobody ever wants to have that thought of, the things that could happen, but Heritage High School has 100 doors plus on the outside of it to get into any of those buildings. You look at Sherwood Elementary School, it's got 2 doors that have access to 4 to 5 to 6 classrooms at any given time. The schools are dated. They absolutely are. And, that's where I take a step back and I entrust Supervisor Kratz and her judgment.
You mentioned the police department, which has a kind of a soft spot in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I co-chair the Crime Council with Scott Malice, Chief Malice. And the department, Saginaw Township's been blessed because there the public has supported the police department.
Absolutely.
Steadfastly.
And that's
it's coming up again next year, I think.
It is. So, yes, 2028 will be running for that again.
2028.
Correct.
And, it's one of the few departments around with a crime prevention unit, just great people.
Absolutely. And that having a department and having that crime prevention unit allows us to do a little bit more proactive policing, which is something that, we're very fortunate to have, to be able to go into our apartment complexes and establish a relationship with those heavily, densely populated areas to try and, nip things in the bud before they even take place.
All right, we're going to take a break. We come back. I'm going to give the supervisor a chance to bubble up and froth up because he's going to talk about what's happening on State Street. All of that is ahead with our guests after these notes. Let me start out by talking about one of the things you will find, even in Saginaw Township, unfortunately, is potholes. And if you hit enough of them, you're going to impact your car's alignment. You should have it checked regularly. And our friends at Quick Lane Freeland are offering a complimentary alignment check. That's right. Drive in, say you heard that you can get a complimentary alignment check, and they will give you one. And if you wonder how important the alignment is, I've asked John from Quick Lane Freeland to give us just a brief course on alignment. John?
If your vehicle's wheels are aligned correctly, it will not pull to the left or to the right when driving. It also prevents improper tread wear, so your tires last longer. A wheel alignment should be checked often because normal steering wear and tear can cause your alignment to go out, in addition to potholes and railroad crossings. A correct alignment also reduces rolling resistance on your tires for better fuel mileage.
Thanks, John. Stop in. Don't forget, a complimentary alignment check awaits you at Quick Lane Freeland. Also, if you need tires, don't forget they sell all of their new tires at just $5 over cost. Quick Lane Freeland, it's part of the McDonald Ford complex. And those two names stand ready to serve all your automotive needs in 2026.
We're proud to make
can expose you to identity theft. Thankfully, LifeLock, they are able to monitor hundreds of millions of data points every second of every day for any threat to your identity, which is way more than anyone can ever do on their own. If they find anything suspicious, loans taken out in your name, charges to financial accounts, they will alert you right away, all through text, phone, email.
Hey, it's Kevin Ray, host of Simply Financial and your financial coach at Insight Folios, serving the Tri-City area. At our firm, we believe a great retirement plan shouldn't take pages or a bunch of spreadsheets or a finance degree.
All right, we're back with you. In studio with us, Saginaw Township Supervisor. He is Gary Fondrick, and Saginaw Township Manager. He is Brian Rombalski, talking about the township and things happening in the township. And I mentioned before the break I would allow Gary to bubble. He is very enthused about something that's happening on State Street. So tell us what it's all about.
Well, you know, State Street personally has been my life. My business, when I was at Westside Decorating, was always on State Street. So I have a soft spot for that. And when I got elected to supervisor, one of the first things I found out is this corridor improvement district program that was going on in the township was just not quite ready to take off. But I'm proud to say and glad to say that we really are going to see things happen. We did start out in a small way. A few months ago, we had some benches and trash receptacles installed. So if you go down State Street, you'll see those. And we have more of those to come. But the next big thing, in just a couple of weeks, we're going to have flower pots. First time, in at least in my recollection, of something like that on any of the main corridors in the township. So we're going to have about 50 of those along State Street.
Somebody traveled to Frankenmuth.
Yeah, yeah, we did have a nice talk with Bridget there. But the corridor itself, geographically, is Passalt to Midland Road. And the goal, 15 years ago, the board looked at State Street at that time and said, you know, we need to do something to upgrade State Street aesthetically. Now, fortunately for us on the committee, just in the last 5 years, there's been a great improvement when you look at all the new businesses that have come on State Street. So we're riding in on the coattails, so to speak, during this year and next year. Besides the benches and the flowers, we'll be having new entry signs on each end of the corridor. And we look forward to next year having decorative light poles from one end to the other. So I tell everybody...
So it'll be a lighted corridor.
I'm sorry?
It'll be a lighted corridor the entire length?
Yes. So I tell everybody it's you're not going to recognize State Street when this is complete. So there's a lot of exciting things happen to complement all the businesses that are going in.
Now, what about Bay Road, Brian?
So that's the biggest thing right now, obviously, is you look at different corridors and even Bay Road. Bay Road's one that we break into two. So State Street is very much on the upswing right now. You see a lot of new businesses going in there. One of the ones that we actually talked with the developer last week was that Verizon building at State and Weineke. So then transitioning over to Bay Road. Bay Road is really divvied up into two sections.
Wait, back up.
Correct.
Is something happening to the Verizon building or the changes that have already been made?
Good question. So the changes that have already been made there. So that Verizon building was, a few thousand square feet. That was just, cavernous for Verizon.
For them, yeah.
So they ended up, the developer of the property divvied it up. Obviously, we've got a coffee shop that's already been there, but then put in Pizza Hut and Qdoba right there as well to try and utilize that space a little bit more effectively to be able to get more tenants in and to get more stores on State Street.
You can tell it's working by the parking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So then when we transition over to Bay Road, so Bay Road, we really have two districts, the north and the south. I really split that at about McCarty Road for that focus that we're looking at. You look at anything really in that Wyson Bay area, which would be in that south corridor, it's a lot of aged properties, a lot of vacant buildings and stuff that we're trying, to focus on and see what types of, little investment here and little tweaks here to policies and changes. For example, 2885 Bay Road. on the western side of the road. It's a building that's been in some rough shape for the last 15 years. So trying to stay on top of that, work with the developers, work with more broad developers, and then also
Is there an advantage for the township to come in if they could and level that?
There
and
would
sell
be.
the land?
So there would be. Obviously, there's tricks and processes to that kind of thing that
obviously.
involves court tie-ups. So it kind of lengthens and stretches out those processes when that takes place. But there's always those opportunities to come in and do that. So one of the things that we're focusing on right now is kind of redeveloping our future land use map to do those transitional type zonings, not just focus on these old antiquated types of policies, and really posture themselves to be successful. The mall would be a great category for that on the north side. We've got a mall planned unit development to really, expand what everybody can do over there and get things in there that people can be excited about.
And apparently the mall is seeing a bit of an upswing.
It is. So what we're seeing with them is they've got a lot of, reposturing for them. They're no longer, it seems like, going after these big, huge national or international types of businesses. They're really looking and focusing on what these local investors, what are these local types of things where people are passionate, people are buying in.
With one exception, and that's the replacement in the food court.
That is true.
Hasn't been.
Correct.
I don't know that it's been announced yet, has it?
So I'm not sure if it's been formally announced yet. There have been plans and building permits submitted to us.
Yeah.
So there's still some of those where it's not technically out there, but we're excited.
Yeah, it's going to be a major.
Yes,
Let's put it
absolutely.
that way. Big for them.
Absolutely.
I want to switch to something else because it's not good news anywhere. Housing.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be you could build a starter home, let's say 1,500 square feet, probably sell it for $150,000, and it was a legitimate starter home. That same home today is $450,000.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to build single-family homes, and how is the township positioned for more multifamily dwellings?
Sure. So what I can say, I just celebrated my 9th anniversary here with the township, and I can say, obviously, from 2017 to this day now, we've definitely set ourselves apart from what we want to do with multifamily housing. We were a little bit apprehensive of it in the beginning when I first started out here, and now the board is a little bit more, it's a palatable type of approach. Now, Art, you kind of allude to who wants to build that type of structure, those types of buildings within our community. The biggest thing that you're seeing is a shift towards more density. Obviously, you put more homes in a developable piece of land, you're going to get more profit out of it. So that's what we're seeing developers try and do. Now,
the other side of that, though, is their postage stamps because
correct.
the lots get smaller.
Mm-hmm. Now, what we're seeing, though, is we try and look at some market data with all of this. You're absolutely right. These homes are going for $400,000 for just these small lots with smaller homes on them, starter homes. But what you're seeing is a lot of people that are, in my age cohort and younger and a little bit older than myself that are no longer wanting to maintain these large properties and things like that. We go and we work, the job might be 8 to 5, but, Gary and I talk all through the weekends and everything like that. It's not an 8 to 5 type of career. So I don't necessarily have that time. I'm blessed to have a great wife who helps out and does a lot of that lion's share of stuff. But what you're seeing is they want density. Density increases their profit margin.
Yeah, but it just seems logical that the sellable items are in multifamily.
They are.
Right now, anyway.
They are. And one of the things, obviously, that we've had applied to for our planning commission, some just quick conversations would be kind of a multi-use type of development for homes. When you usually think of multi-unit, multi-use, you're thinking of like maybe a coffee shop, and then above there's some residential spaces. This is duplexes, quadplexes, triplexes, then surrounded by single-family homes. And that's something that we're not used to, but is definitely taking root throughout the country, that you're seeing a lot of developments go that way.
Yet the township has had a lot of duplex development over the years.
Correct.
But it's been in neighborhoods that were all duplexes, and that was it.
Absolutely. I grew up right on Dustine Drive, and right there on, Maybrook and everything, there's a bunch of duplexes right around the corner. It's single-family homes. You're just now seeing that type of stuff really start to come back to the forefront again.
All right, we'll take a break, come back, talk more about Saginaw Township with our guests after these notes here on the Art Lewis Show.
Since 1947.
All right, we're back with you in studio with me, the Saginaw Township Manager. He is Brian Rumbalski. And the Saginaw Township Supervisor, he is Gary Fondrick. So let's just finish up with the housing because there are some projects going in the township.
Yes.
So just fill us in on those.
Yeah, so I mean, we're still seeing a lot more, of those densely populated type of things where it's quadplexes, triplexes, things like that. It's good to see some single-family homes coming in. Supervisor Fondrick is obviously very proud of our partnership with Hemlock Semiconductor and Corning's Corporation over there with solar, and we're going to see some more influx into the area with that. Obviously, there are trends and changes in what you look at as the, accurate, proper amount for rental housing, and that's shifted throughout the country, and we're keeping suit with that.
Another thing happening in this area is a lot of talk about medical facilities with the medical school coming and all of that. Covenant's doing some major work out on Gratiot, and that's on Tittabawassee, and that's on the township side of Tittabawassee.
Yes.
So tell us what's happening there.
So right now, Covenant is expanding with 2 facilities. So directly to the west of their Covenant Mackinac Tower, they're going to be putting in an orthopedic center. Based upon those schematics and those plans, it's going to be a beautiful building, the type of product we're all used to from Covenant. Obviously, they've got that partnership with Mary Freebed that has been super beneficial to them, and we've got a lot of good people there. We've actually got an individual from Covenant that sits on one of our boards to help with, the Zoning Board of Appeals. And to see this orthopedic center come in, what they said to us at that groundbreaking ceremony is it's going to be the first of its kind, really, in our area. They're going to have an Ortho Express, and what they've explained to us, because obviously I'm not medically trained, nor do I pretend to be ever, but in those types of situations, ortho stuff needs to be, identified swiftly, but maybe not treated swiftly. And that's the type of thing that this Ortho Express is going to provide to our region. And then to the west of that, Covenant is partnered with Henry Ford, and that is a huge, huge partnership undertaking. And what they're going to be doing to the west of that is putting in a neurosciences facility. Something that, they say our region is lacking a little bit of. So they're bringing up 2 highly skilled, highly trained medical professionals to service our region.
Well, those projects are big. At the same time, there's about to be a lot of work on Tittabawassee Road.
That's true. Yeah.
Give everybody just a little heads up as what's going to happen.
Sure. So obviously all roads in this community need some work, and that's the biggest thing. And, thankfully that millage passed, that we get to do a lot of different things with that, with our partners, Dennis Borchard over at the Saginaw County Road Commission, but it's going to be a bit of a mess. There's going to be some roads shut down, obviously Tittabawassee on that.
And let me just point something out, too. It is not a state road. This
Correct.
is local dollars going in.
Correct. So there is one piece, though, of it is MDOT, the Michigan Department of Transportation, does have jurisdiction over, I believe it's 500 feet to the east and west of their trunk lines. But you're absolutely correct.
Right.
This project is local dollars from, obviously, the state disbursement.
So they
to
would
MDOT.
control the intersection, for example,
Correct.
at Bay and Tittabawassee.
Yep. So Saginaw County Road Commission then controls everything along Tittabawassee because Tittabawassee is a county road.
Right.
So they'll be shutting down, a good chunk of the eastern side of Tittabawassee within Saginaw Township. So to kind of give an example of where that's going to be, think of, Bay Road east of that to about 675.
Yeah.
It's going to be impactful to businesses. Art, it's going to probably be impactful to your morning commute with this kind of stuff.
I know ways around.
There you go. But that's the kind of stuff that we're looking at with this. So what Gary and I try and do and step into this is we can't really dictate what's being done. Obviously, there needs to be this road work. But we can work with our partners at the Road Commission and try and make this as minimally impactful on our businesses as we can.
Do we know a start date? I know there's a meeting coming up.
Correct. There's a meeting later this month, I
20th.
believe on the 20th.
Yep.
And then soon after that, I would assume early June, they're going to kick that off. So that's going to be kind of an informational meeting to get that ball rolling.
We're all looking forward to that. It's interesting. We talk about all of these things all the time, and we cover a big area. Every now and then one of these topics comes up and it impacts us here at the radio station. And we go, uh-oh. Never know.
Yep.
Take our last break and then come back and finish up with our guests as we talk about Saginaw Township.
Ready to update your home and
Back with you. In studio with me, Saginaw Township Supervisor Gary Fondrick, Saginaw Township Manager Brian Rumbalski, as we talk about the township. So we've talked about a lot of things, but the one question I haven't asked is, what's missing? What do you think the township needs that they don't have right now?
Well, I look at, again, from the supervisor perspective, the overall picture of the township. We certainly have a lot of great things going. There's no question about that. Saginaw Township has a great reputation. Matter of fact, we're going to be 200 years old in 2031, so that shows you how old this township is, but also how progressive it has been over the years. I think, personally, I'd like to see the township grow. We talked about the other day possibly putting some type of a marketing campaign together, because we keep hearing, sometimes we talk about how expensive houses are, but it all depends what you compare it to. And certainly Saginaw Township is known for a good value, dollar for dollar, in houses. So that's one of the things I'd like to see is more people come to the township. We talked about the Medical Diamond HSC, that could be part of it, but there's also other opportunities, I think, to bring people to the area. Also, empty buildings. Brian mentioned earlier we have some empty buildings around the township. Every community does. Certainly trying to do everything we can to help businesses either relocate into some of those or encourage some new people to come into the township to fill those. So those are the two main goals that I personally have, is to see some growth and also to fill some of those empty buildings.
So I have to ask you this, Brian. In talking to people in general that have to deal with government, whatever it is, you talk to them about dealing with the state government and, how business friendly is the township?
I like to think we're as business friendly as we can possibly be. I mean, that's the biggest thing. We were chatting about this a little bit earlier, is, this is the most accessible level of government, and we should act like it, and we should be that way. There's not many places that you can just, if you've got a complaint with the state, you can't just walk into the governor's office. If you've got a complaint with Saginaw Township, you can walk right into the supervisor's office. You can walk into my office.
Notice, he put supervisor first.
Yeah,
You notice that,
exactly. He let him deal with them, and then any of the easy ones he can.
He doesn't mind sending them my way.
Right. But that's the type of stuff, is we want to be accountable to our residents, because again, you know us, you see us, we're around. It's not one of those where you see us on a billboard or you see us on a commercial and that's the only time you ever see our face. And that's a big thing. And, to kind of piggyback off of Gary's question, what's missing? I'd love to see more community involvement. And I think Gary and the rest of the township board would love to as well. We put out questionnaires. We don't know necessarily how to steer the ship in the directions that all of our residents want if we don't hear from them. So that's what's always good, is to get that community involvement, that we can, set our sails and set the course on the right path.
So if I asked you to look at the Rumbalski crystal ball 5 years down the road, what's it going to look like?
That's a good question. The township in general, our staffing, things like that. So, township in general, 5 years from now, our goal is to really get everything brought up to the 21st century. A lot of the things in Saginaw Township have been done well and done right in the 70s and 80s, and they've been touched minimally since. And that's the kind of stuff that we want to see. That's a big bolstering of our park investment right now. You're seeing that change dramatically. We've got a $1 million renovation of the Playscape Park happening, with half of that coming from a state grant. About 5 years from now, I'd love to see our police department, continue their good efforts. I'd love to see the fire department, continue to bolster their staffing levels with this duty crew that we do to get in. And again, those types of things allow for those proactive and preventative type things. So my goal 5 years from now is to continue the proactive approach and to really lead the region.
I'm going to ask both of you about a building. Gary and I, we've chatted about it.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be a savings and loan bank sitting out on Gratiot.
No, just which one you're talking about.
Before you even gave me any bit of it, I'm like, I know where he's
just
going.
to the west of center.
Yep.
That building has been empty for decades.
It has been.
Not years, but decades. What's the story on that?
Sure. So there's obviously a history associated with that. As far back as I can remember, it's been vacant. And that's the kind of things you don't want to see, those types of things. It's not, it's for sale, but it's not necessarily actively for sale. It's all these different things that go into it. And, that region, we were talking a little bit about, our Rite Aids and everything like that. There's going to be some development down there, and we're looking forward to it. All it takes is that one domino to start that chain reaction thereafter. We're hoping, some of that stuff on that northwest corner could be that chain reaction to go from there.
Because it would seem to me, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not an expert in this, but even if somebody were to come along, let's say a bank came along and said, yeah, we're gonna buy that building, the amount of work needed to bring that up to code today would almost be prohibitive, wouldn't it?
Right, absolutely. I mean, when you look at that, and again, it hasn't had proper...
Looks nice, but yeah.
It's built like a bomb shelter, and that's the biggest thing, and that's, I think, part of the issue is there is no weather within the state of Michigan that will knock that building over. So it's one of those that you've got to look at, if I'm a developer and I'm looking at that, likely the most cost-effective way to do it is to raise the building. And go from there. Now, you bolster that area with that kind of stuff and that investment. Hopefully that person comes a knocking, but you don't know, and that's the difficulty with it is we can board up as many windows as we want on that building. Its structural integrity is still sound.
Yeah. And, at one point we thought something was happening because electric service went in on the side of it. And, okay, something's going to happen here.
Sure.
What happened was the electrical service went in.
Right.
Yeah, we do get a lot of questions on that because residents, think we have some control. Why don't you guys do something with that building? Well, as long as they continue to pay the taxes and make it a safe building, there's really nothing we can do.
Yeah, that's really the contradiction because if it were unsafe, you could come in.
Absolutely.
And do something with it.
Sure.
But you're right. It's built like a bombshell.
It is.
It's not going anywhere.
Right.
But we're hoping that something in the near future can change on that. So we haven't heard anything definite, but that would be the number one goal is to have that building demolished because that's the number one question I always get asked.
And, and then you have that plaza right there, which is not all full. It'd be nice to see that full up again.
So the one tricky piece with that plaza, you're talking the old Kroger Plaza behind it?
Yeah, that's the tricky piece.
So that, I believe it's Storage of America that's down there. They own the entirety of the building. Right. And I think once they start to get to those points where they're filling up those units that they've got built, they'll continue to expand to the east then. But they've got a lot of outlots that they're looking to develop because they do own all of that road frontage in between that bank and that forward Shell station.
Yeah. Well, guys, look, appreciate you being here.
Yeah, appreciate you having us.
As you get rolling on State Street, we'll have to come back and look at it down the road.
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Brian, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Art.
Brian Rombowski is the Township Manager. Gary, thank you.
Thank you, Art.
Township Supervisor, we thank him for being with us today. Take a break, tell you what's ahead next hour.
Gotta go to Godwin's. Memorial Day savings are here. Enjoy up to 65% off.
Weekdays at 3 on 100.5 and 790 News Radio WSGW.
All right, that'll do it for the first hour of the Art Lewis Show. Jonathan's going to join me for Open Phones next hour, whatever you'd like to chat about, and we got some things to bring up too. And we will do that after the news. CBS comes along next with the national and international news. Michael Percha is in the WSGW newsroom, and he will fill you in on the region and the state of Michigan. When all that's done, we'll be back right after the news with the next hour of the Art Lewis Show.
Broadcasting from the